Right on, Kate. Go ahead and tell your story.
Sure, okay. So I'm gonna try and tell you it as as I'm remembering it. So I
Okay.
remember I was in the car and my sister was in the car and we were getting dropped off at one of her friend's birthday parties. So I was about 5 or 6, and my sister was about 6 or 7. My sister hates it whenever I would come with her to these parties or pretty much anywhere because my family had her dragging me around everywhere and she hated it. So I had to come to her birthday party. I didn't know anyone and I remember I would just stand there a little bit. It was just a couple minutes, but still I was just so shy and I didn't know anyone and I really, really, really didn't want to ruin my sister's birthday party or my sister's friend's birthday party. So I think some of the kids noticed that I was a little bit shy, at least a little bit. And they came up to me and they're like, hey, do you want to go ahead and play in the pool? It's going to be a lot of fun. And they have the shallow end, so it's okay if you don't know how to swim. And I didn't know how to swim actually, but there were so many adults around that I felt that I would be safe. Um, but I wasn't really. So I had gone into the pool and I was swimming with all the other kids, and eventually they had gotten out of the pool and I didn't even realize. I was just kind of crudely swimming around, and I probably looked absolutely ridiculous because I would bounce one foot off of the bottom of the pool just to kind of move, and my arms are pretty much just flapping around. Um, so I can move forward, and my leg behind me was like I don't know what it was doing. It was like a like a tail of a boat, like moving me in a direction. So I bounced my foot off of the bottom of the pool to move. And there was a point where I was like, hey, I can do this. Like, I can swim. I can do this. Like, no problem. So I tried swimming without my foot at the bottom of the pool. Um, as I was swimming, I took my foot and I went to reach for the bottom of the pool because I noticed I actually wasn't very good at this. And I noticed that the bottom of the pool was a lot further from me. Actually, it was at my tippy toes. And the feeling kind of set in that, oh no, I'm in trouble and I don't think anybody knows. So I thought about kind of calling out for help, but the water was pretty much already at my mouth. And I would call out, but the water would fill me, would fill my mouth. And I'm like, okay, I can't do this. I can't call out for help, so focus on breathing. Just focus on staying above the water until somebody notices you. So I would get deeper and deeper because there was a tilt at the pool and it would go into a deeper water. And I didn't know that. This was actually one of the first times I was in the pool. So every single time I would sink down and reach the bottom, I would kick off and try to come up for air. And it had actually gotten to a point where it was starting to get a while before I could reach the surface for a breath of air. Um, and I just remember I had to open my eyes so I would know when I reached the top. And I could hear the party above me. Just sorry.
You're fine. Keep going. Do you need a minute? We can take a minute if you want.
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm totally cool.
All right. No worries.
But but I could hear like all the parents walking around. I could almost see just the colors of their shirts as the water rippled above me. And as I was in the middle, like I bounced off from the bottom and I was at the deepest part of the pool. And then I was midway to the air, and every single time I would sink down, it's like I would lose more air. I didn't have enough time. So I really needed this breath of air. And then I noticed something grab my ankles, and I thought it was just another kid in the pool who was trying to play, and they probably didn't know that I didn't know how to swim. And I was just flopping my legs, and I looked down to see who this kid was, but it wasn't a kid. It wasn't like a person. Sorry.
You're all right. You don't
I,
have to apologize. Just take it at your own pace, and if you need a minute, we can
I
always
know I
stop.
don't get like emotional, but I guess because I'm saying it out loud, it sort of
It's
comes out.
tough. That's
Yeah,
fair.
whew, keeping my cool, okay? But I looked down and it wasn't a person. It was like if you have you ever seen those videos of when someone sprays that like the blackest paint on something and you can see like not really any of their shadow, but you can see a little bit of light on them, kind of molding to a little bit of what their body looks like. But it was like pitch black, and their hands were gripped tightly onto my ankles. Um, but the one thing that sticks in my mind is its smile, because its smile was so unhuman. It looked like the crescent moon. It was just huge, and I don't remember it having eyes, to be honest. But I don't know if that's because the only thing I remembered was the smile. Um, at that point, I completely forgot that I needed air, and I just screamed. And it all went black, but I think for even a moment I do remember hearing the water splash above me. But I'm pretty sure like right after that I didn't remember anything at all. The next thing I know is that I was on the concrete right next to the pool, and my sister, she says that she was the one who pulled me out of the pool, and she says that she was waiting for an adult to notice. Like she noticed I was having problems, but she figured like, oh, an adult will help her. You know, someone was watching the pool, right? Like that's just what the adults do. But when I didn't come up again, she jumped in and grabbed me and pulled me out. Well, she says that like an adult, like she took me to the edge, but an adult pulled us out of the pool, and then that's all that I remember. I didn't mean to get emotional. I don't know why that happened, but
That's fine.
yeah.
Did so? How? Let's start with this. How old were you when this happened?
I was 5 or 6.
5 or 6. You remember it pretty
Yeah.
well. Have you ever seen like anything like this before? Right there
Have I ever seen anything like this before?
or
At
after?
that point, no, not like solid, not that solid, not where I could feel them clinging onto my hand, like onto my ankle. Because you could feel, it felt like a person, but like with a really strong grip was holding on to my ankles, and I didn't know why. So I haven't experienced like anything like that before at that time. So yeah.
That's really dark. Have you ever been to that house before this happened? Yes.
No, that actually it was like an apartment complex, and behind it was like a single pool. Like there was a road that would lead next to it, and I remember looking like, oh, I'm like, oh my gosh, they have a pool! Like this is gonna be fun. I was just like, a little kid excited about
Right.
about a pool and a party, and of course cake. But it was an apartment complex, and then right next to it was another like apartment complex. It was like a 2-story apartment complex. That's what I remember.
So tell me details about the figure in the water.
Mhm.
Big smile, kind of inhuman.
Yeah, very not
Yeah.
what a person could make. It was very something was wrong with that smile. Like something was very wrong.
Did it have eyes?
I don't remember there having eyes. I think it might have had eyes, but to be honest, it's just the smile that kind of stuck with me, and like how dark it was and how tight the grip was. That's what I remember and what it looks like. But I think maybe over time, I don't remember there being any eyes.
Did anybody else see it? Or has anyone else talked about it?
No, no, I asked my sister eventually, like, did you see anything in the water? Um, when you had come and gotten me, and she said no.
That's different. I haven't heard of anything like this before outside of we hear about shadow people and all that kind of stuff, but no one's ever been touched, grabbed
Yeah,
to something like that.
this this terrified me when I saw it. I remember, like, I can never swim again in the pool. Like, I remember in high school I had to take this class, and it was like a swimming class, and I didn't take it because even though there were people around, I didn't know. So I just failed that portion pretty much.
So I'm kind of getting memories from episode we did previously. I don't know if Stackhouse remembers, but yeah, episode 3. There was a man who had a very similar experience at a very young age. Um, but my question to you is, do you remember like your internal thoughts, feelings about this whole situation, or was it just like nothing but a struggle?
um, just to breathe is what I remember. I do remember like it's so weird when you don't know how to swim and you're
Mm,
surrounded by water and you're sinking and then you reach the bottom and then you're like, I hope I can reach the top. I hope I'm not tired yet.
yeah,
And
it's a
that
very
happened. Yeah.
it's like a
But
very chaotic feeling. Like you're
yeah, it
you're
was
out of
extremely
control.
chaotic. Yeah. And but yeah, it was very strange and weird because I thought it was a kid and it wasn't. And I was alone in the water and nobody knew I was down there.
Mm.
So and nobody could hear me if I screamed. I remember thinking that. But I did anyway.
So with the creature's facial features, do you remember the structure, or is it just like black at all?
It was just like a normal human head, maybe a little bit bigger than that.
A little bit bigger.
Just a little bit bigger and more like a roundish circle because of its mouth.
Hmm.
And the mouth took up nearly half the entire face, or even maybe the tips of it took even a little bit more. It was just such a huge smile. It just sticks with me. And then its arms were thin, and it kind of had it outward. His elbows were outward, and he had a very thin torso. I don't even remember him having a lower part. I think he was at the bottom of the pool.
Hmm.
And then, but yeah, I remember his torso, and I remember his arms were very thin, and then he had these huge long fingers. Um, but his hands were not small compared to how thin his arms were. But his fingers were very long.
Hmm. I'm trying to paint a picture in my head of what you may have saw, and
Yeah,
what comes to mind, like the similar body structure of the picture that kid showed us when he saw the Wendigo. Was it the Skinwalker in Oregon? The only real difference from what you're describing is the skin pigment.
is the skin of it.
The pigment. So you're describing black, and what the image was a
Yeah.
really bright tan or a white, right?
No, his skin color was just black. Like if you painted skin with the blackest paint, like the darkest black paint, that's what it looked like. You could see a little itsy bitsy bit of light on top of it.
Yeah, there's so we had a guy on way back, probably October. Um he told us about his are you familiar with skinwalkers?
No, I'm not.
Um Skinwalkers are much like what's known exactly about them is very mysterious. They're considered to be these like shape-shifting creatures. Can I know you wanted to stay anonymous, but can I ask you where this happened?
This happened in Illinois.
Illinois. I mean,
Yeah.
so skinwalkers are generally in Native American areas because that's what little we do know about them is that they up here, but what you're describing is very similar to this guy we had on. His encounter was very similar to what you're describing, and it's really, I guess, spot on, except for, let me see if I can pull up a picture of it. The viewers will have a photo of it on screen, but let me pull it up here so I can describe it better to you. It's absolutely freaky. Skinwalkers are, since they're shapeshifters, people describe them as animals and also these demented humanoid beings that just don't look right, and it sounds very similar to what he saw. So let me go to our photos here. Scroll all the way back, really far back. I know I'll find it in here. There it is. It's very tall. His, in this particular situation, this one didn't have arms, but
Mhm.
it's just like he said it was like almost 10 feet tall. It was in a I think he was in like a forest region, like woods, and
Mhm.
he said 10 feet tall, real slender, like had little yellow eyes, no facial features, just basically a black shadow. But the other skinwalker that we had on,
Your
yeah, there
little
was
eyes,
little
like
yellow
like.
eyes,
Mhm.
like tiny eyes.
Yeah.
Um, the other
I don't.
skinwalker one did have arms, but he said that like its arms were bending the wrong way and a bunch of weird, yeah, like everything when it comes to skinwalkers is very demented. It's all very dark, and that's why actually
Yeah.
we've had a lot of people pull out of the show because they said that whenever they would talk about this stuff openly, things would get worse. So I've had multiple people pull out of the show for that, like last minute. But um, I don't know if I can class.
Okay, I completely changed states.
Yeah,
I
you're
moved as
probably
far away
fine.
as I possibly could from those other ones that I lived in.
Yeah, they I don't know if this is really matching a skinwalker though. Man, I've never heard about any of them in water, or I just don't think it matches 100%. I think it looks similar
Yeah.
to what Ziad saw from that episode, but I don't think it's the same thing.
Yeah, I have no idea what it was. And I still don't know what it was. I just know it was like trying to keep me underwater for some reason, and it enjoyed it. It enjoyed seeing me see what it was.
What
So that was pretty terrifying.
what I'm kind of thinking is, I mean, if you want to put it in a category of type of experience, because there's UFOs, there's aliens kind of grouped together, cryptids, which would be skinwalkers, shit like that, and then there's paranormal stuff. I kind of group in the sleep paralysis along with like poltergeists, or in your case, I'm gonna give it the label of a reaper because the similarities of the story that we had before,
Yeah.
but or like a malevolent spirit, maybe.
Yeah, it was definitely nothing that could have possibly had any good inside of it.
Can I ask you, like, what do you think it was, or because like obviously its intentions were clear. We don't want to go so far to say, but what do you think it was, like, just based on?
Honestly, I don't even really look anything up.
Mm-hmm.
I just have these experiences, but I don't look them up because I don't like to be influenced by what other people say because I just like to keep it exactly how I remember it.
Yeah.
And so I don't really look anything up or try to study anything. I just things would happen and I would just, remember them, and then I finally started writing them down. So that I have no idea what it could possibly be, but it wasn't anything good. That's what I know. It wasn't. I don't even know if it was ever really human, to be honest. I have
Mm.
no idea. I don't even know if it was just mocking us.
One
Mocking.
thing that is very common with the paranormal type situations is it is always, not always, but very frequently, it is children to experience this kind of stuff, and once they hit the
Yeah.
age range of like 10, 11, 12, that's kind of when things stop happening. Um,
Really? 'Cause
yeah,
yeah, I remember I was having all sorts of experiences, and but my family said, you know, yeah, but yeah. So when I was little, I would have all of these experiences, and I would just kind of remember them, like put them away, remember
yeah,
them, don't talk about it, because that's what my family told me, like just don't talk about it, nobody will understand. Um, but it didn't stop; it just kept going, and it just got worse. And I remember when I turned 19, I'm like, listen, like there's things that are happening. My dad's like, well, I know it's everybody in the family has this, and you just have to kind of live with it, and you can't really talk about it, or people are gonna think you're crazy. So I didn't really talk about it that much. Um, but I remember when I was 20 or 21, um, yeah, I almost died because I made a little mistake. So it didn't really end. I think when I eventually was able to turn it off, it went away. It went away in a second.
yeah.
So
A very common thing that people are told, especially by family members, is you don't talk about these kinds of things because people are going to assume you're crazy. They don't
mhm.
like to listen to everyone's side of the story. Very common.
Mm,
Because it's unknown or it's unnatural. Like it, people don't want to believe it because they have their own eyes. The same thing goes. Oh, I saw a UFO. I don't think UFOs are real because I've never seen one. It's the same logic.
yeah. Like, I mean, for my parents or my dad on his side, he would be very open. Sorry. He would be very he would be very open about everything. And he only kind of opened up after my sister and I opened up. That's when he started actually talking about things. And, he's like, you can come to me, you can talk to me about it, but you can't really talk to other people about it. You can talk to your family about it, your uncles, but you can't talk about this to other people. Um, but yeah.
Yeah, no, we've had a lot of people that have come on and said that it's the same thing, that they don't talk about it, and I think that's a problem because people are seeing something. And like, I understand the whole argument that we didn't really understand what you saw, but too many people are seeing stuff like this, and it just can't all be I saw something and interpreted whatever it was wrong. There's just no way.
Yeah.
And then go ahead.
I'm sorry. But I did eventually think that I was just crazy. Um, I mean, even though things would kind of move around the house or other people would experience things for some reason, I'm just like, listen, this has been going on for a really long time. I just need to figure out, am I crazy or is it true that my dad thinks that I have some kind of, I don't know what it is, but these things would keep coming. And I remember I voluntarily stayed for about 1 week in a ward, and they came to, and this is actually after the near death experience when I was 20 or 21. Um, because I thought, everything that happened that year was insane and I must be crazy. And my boyfriend, he did have experiences as well, but I thought maybe it was just like we were, going through an experience, and for some reason, by sharing it with each other, we started seeing things, something like that. Like that, I had to explain something. So I stayed in the ward for a week, and they said that there wasn't anything. I wasn't real. There was like the only thing that they said that I could have had was PTSD, and that was it. They said there wasn't anything else, and I was good to go. So it helps, but it doesn't. It doesn't explain anything. And I don't need an explanation for anything, but I need to kind of understand. You know? I don't know if that makes any sense.
No, no, that makes sense. We had, what was her name? Can't remember her name. We had a we had a woman on last week that told us about a story where she was a child and had a childhood friend, and they were having a play date or sleepover or whatever, and middle of the day her friend saw something, it made her freak out, and when her friend freaked out, um her parents came and picked her up, and she didn't see her again. And years later, she found out that her friend was actually spent a lot of time in psychiatric units, or spent some
Mhm.
time in psychiatric units. And she told us, while she was on with us, that the the day that she freaked out and she was talking about what she saw, she had also seen the same thing in the house, but had never mentioned it. So
Yeah.
she also never mentioned it back to her friend because her friend did have very real psychiatric issues.
Yeah.
However, it doesn't mean that what she saw that day, where she freaked out at her friend's house, wasn't real.
Yeah. It's almost
Uh,
like you need someone else to see it
right.
to say it was real. And even then you don't know, was it really real?
And I always want to be very careful when we talk about mental health on the show for a variety of
Yeah.
reasons. And she told us that she never said anything to this friend because this friend spent all these years working towards improving her, getting the medications, getting the help she needed to fix her mental state. Because she did have very real psychiatric issues. Did she say she was schizophrenic, I think, or something
Yeah.
along those, like a very serious actually had some issues. And she didn't want to go to her friend and say, hey, what we saw when we were kids was real, like it's
Yeah,
not in
and
your head,
then all
because
the
that could,
progress
right,
wiped away.
it could destroy all the progress that she's made over the years. So um it's very well one of those things. But it sounds like you have zero history of mental health whatsoever.
Yeah, I've
And
tried. I've really tried. Um, it's weird if you want to try and explain it off as, oh, I'm crazy. Like finally something explains it, and it's like my sister, she's bipolar. Um, and she also had. My dad told me that she has a little bit of schizophrenia. So that's when I started. Like, okay, I need to go and figure out, do I have anything? And I would go to like therapists, and then eventually I went to the ward for a week, and everyone just nothing. They just said, oh, have you been abused as a child, or do you just have PTSD and things like that? And it's just, I'm like, dude, I'm like, you know, at least give me, like, if I was crazy, at least I would not. Well, I don't like to say crazy because they're not. They're just trying to live, but to have medicine, to have it all go away, to just like I would be able to just, live like everybody else. Like when I was 19, I found out none of this happens to other people. So it just, I'm like, why does it happen? You know, why can't it stop? So yeah, I tried to see if there's anything that could possibly say that there was a reason behind it, but nothing.
So one very important thing to say is like there's no actual science, like there's nothing that backs this up. So
Yeah,
I can't
I
say that you're gonna ever figure out exactly what's going on.
yeah,
But I mean, there comes a point in your life where you got to learn how to live with your. So
yeah. It's just, I mean, you eventually I learned like I can turn it off. It's like a light switch. But it's like everybody's in the dark and they don't know that a room can have a light on. And all of a sudden, when I notice through the walls of people talking that all of a sudden everyone else's room is dark, it's like a light switch appears, and I'm like, okay, I can maybe turn this off. And then eventually, over time of just practicing, I could turn it off. And I think that's something that also explained to me that you can't just, if I did have something, I can't just turn it off, and make
Mhm.
it go away for like years and like I'm fine for years. And then all of a sudden something like it opens, it turns on. But for years it just turns off. It's like, even in a second, just turn it off, and nothing happens. It's all gone. Nothing's there. And then turn it back on all of a sudden, and then, it's there. It
Yeah.
can be for years.
These are the kind of things that, like, let's say without a doubt, for a fact, that this is 110% paranormal, and you have like this connection, right? It's something you got to live with. You can't toss it out the window.
Yeah.
You're not going to get answers, but
Mhm.
that doesn't necessarily mean like it's going to be a bad thing, because there are certain things that a lot of people, like, if you just want to take a generic, like, experience. I had a experience when I was teens with sleep paralysis, and I saw what was the night hag, which normally would be a very scary thing, but when you're aware that this is not gonna hurt you, it suddenly becomes a lot.
Yeah. I remember when I was like 12 or 13. No, I was 11 to 12, and I lived in my house was haunted at the time. Totally different thing. I'm not going to go into it, but I remember my dad said, "They're more scared of you than you are of them. If you're polite, they'll be polite to you."
Mm.
We would just try to, even if things were like happening in the kitchen, we would just try to live a normal life and, like, oh, something fell off the counter in the kitchen, or, oh, hey, did you hear those footsteps in the hallway, or something like that, or the footprints under the door? It's like, yeah, whatever, that happened yesterday too. I mean, it was so common, and everybody experienced it. It was just a part of the house at that point.
Yeah.
So it's like, it just became like, don't be scared and things like that. But then I never had anything touch me, like my ankles, and I think that's what terrified me. That's what made me scream,
Yeah,
because
that's
I felt it.
it was a very physical, very real thing for you, so of course it's
Yeah.
gonna be like terrifying.
Mhm.
Give me just a sec.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, you're all good. Don't worry about it.
My friend offered if we wanted a drink from the gas station. I already got my Arizona tea.
Yeah, also sorry to the viewers that just got, absolutely destroyed with their ears from the Facebook Messenger notification, because that went through the computer. My bad. Should,
Oh,
really, really remember to close that out. But
I
I
didn't
keep
hear that.
forgetting. Yeah, it's coming through our headsets. But so
So while
yeah,
I'm talking, you just have hundreds of messages coming through your Facebook?
no, it was just one
I'm
this one
kidding.
time. I just forgot that I had the tab open. It got buried in with all as we film
No, you're
episodes and we
fine.
talk about this stuff. I always look up lore behind this kind of stuff, and I have tabs
I
open right
mean,
now with stuff, and Facebook was buried in the mix of tabs. But um,
yeah,
I think
you're totally fine.
that
I gotta set an alarm go off and my dog barked, so you're fine.
I think it was. I think what's really important to touch on too is that it's. I think it was a very good idea that you sought psychiatric help after questioning yourself,
Yeah, I
because
needed something.
right,
Like, it-
something, and that's great that they say that you don't have any psychiatric problems, and it really makes me wonder what you saw that day. It really does. And
yeah,
I always hear about people too, and you said that your boyfriend experienced things too as you got older.
yeah, he did. Um, we lived. I'm not gonna tell you the whole story, but yeah, we
That's
lived
fine.
in an apartment, and I remember actually before that apartment, he had a problem when I first met him, and the first. Okay, so the first time he held my hand was, okay, this is sad. But it was because there was a woman who was standing behind him, and she kept standing behind him. And I finally, it had, she'd come around so often. I took his hand. I'm like, have you ever felt like someone was around sometimes, or something like that? And I started to describe what the woman looked like, and he he noticed that what I described was like the picture of a ghost that he had from his dorm, and that's when he took his hand. Like, he thought like this ghost had followed him from China because they were playing around in the dorm, and one of his friends was taking pictures like, oh, ha ha ha, like, come out, ha ha ha, and stuff like that, and snapped this random picture of my boyfriend on his bed sitting up, laughing, and there was a girl underneath their bed. um
What?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
dude.
asked him, like, do you have the picture? I saw the picture before, but he says that he wasn't able, like, he's not even in contact with his friend anymore from the dorms. But if I do find it, I'll definitely send it to you guys, okay?
Yeah, that'd be
Um,
cool.
yeah, I'll try. Okay, there's a couple photos that I'm trying to find. But yeah, that one I'll go ahead and try to show it to you. It's pretty creepy. Because there was just, you could really make out the face from underneath the bed. Like, it was definitely a girl.
Shivers.
But it looked like The Grudge almost. But yeah. And
Creepy.
then he also said later on, he opened like a week or two later, because I ended up moving in with him. Because my stepmom, I scared her on accident. Didn't mean to, but his I ended up staying with my boyfriend, and he said, I had this experience once. And I said, yeah, go ahead and talk about it. And he's like, this might sound crazy, but there's a lady in the apartment, and she was completely blue. Like, she was just this light blue, but you could see it was this lady. And he was laying in his bed. And at the time, he had just moved there, so he didn't build the bed yet. So he was laying on the floor, on the mattress. And he would wake up, like, blink his eyes open at night, because I think he probably, like, felt like something was there. So he opened his eyes, and like, he would see this woman on all fours crawling towards him. And she was on the floor, and he was on the floor, and he was so sleepy, he would just fall back to sleep and open his eyes, and she'd be closer. But he eventually did just roll over and fall asleep. He's weird like that. I don't know how he can do that.
I
But
couldn't do that.
I know, me neither.
That's basically what happened with my night hag experience, where it was like on top of my chest, and I was like, oh, I know what you are. All right, I'm going back to bed.
Yeah.
Very like it's just you can picture like I don't want to call it a zombie because that feels really cliche, but rotted flesh on the face, and you just like you wake up and that's what you see, and you're just like, the fuck are you?
It's like, yeah, it's like, I don't have time for this. Like, I'm sleepy, man. Like, I don't have time for this. Like, if your friend calls you and you're just like, yeah, but I just woke up, like, and I'm going back to sleep. I'm just gonna
it's
pretend like I didn't see this call, or
it's like
something like that.
7 in the morning. I'm a 17-year-old pothead, and I just went to sleep like 3 hours ago. Like, why? Why are you here? I don't have time for you. I'm going back to bed, man.
Yeah, like, I don't have time for this. This is like complete BS. Like, get on my schedule, bro. Like, come
Exactly.
on. But yeah, but oh yeah, did you still want to hear about the apartment or no? Like, it's okay if you don't.
No, no, keep
Like,
going.
so I was 20 or 21, and I lived in this apartment. I'm not gonna tell the whole story.
Okay.
Oh my, it's okay. I'll tell you what my boyfriend just messaged me. He didn't want to talk because, or you can talk. Okay. He didn't want to talk because he doesn't want to, ruin this podcast by having like both of us talk. So anyway, we were in the apartment, and I had bought him a cross because his dad and his mom kind of would take him to a church or a cathedral, which was on a hill. And and I bought him this just to kind of remind him, like, how much his parents love him, and his parents lived in, another country at the time. So I wanted him to remember his parents, and for him that cathedral was so important. So I'm like, oh yeah, I'll go ahead and buy this and I'll put this on the wall. But every morning it would be off the wall, it would be on the floor, like right underneath it, just that cross. And I didn't understand it. So just put it back up. I'm like, oh, old apartment, ha ha ha, that kind of like explain it away. It's settling, or it's the person who's walking upstairs or something like that, that moved the wall and the cross fell off, or some kind of weird thing. And then in the middle of the night, I would wake up and I remember one night I was thirsty and I walked into the kitchen and I opened the refrigerator, and when I closed the refrigerator, all the cabinet doors were open. And then in front of me was the bedroom door leading to where my boyfriend was sleeping. And then to my right was pretty much the living room. And I noticed something at the corner of my eye, but it looked just like me. Like, just like me. uh, I know it's strange, but it looked like me, but in my other pajamas that I used to wear. But at that night, I wasn't wearing those pajamas. And I thought it was an intruder. I'm like, maybe it's someone who looks like me, but was like intruder, like breaking in or something. But they were just standing there, almost like slunched over, and it started like slowly walking, but its back was like hunched a little bit, and its neck was down, almost like it was like didn't want to lift its head. But as it walked like right in front of me, I tried to look at the face. I'm like, okay, if I can remember the face of this person, I can tell the police, and I'll, if they manage to get out of here, I'll go and tell the police exactly what they look like. But when I looked at the face, it didn't have a face. It was just skin, like nothing, like no crevice, no nose, no mouth, no eyes. It was just skin with like my hair and my clothes on, and it just kind of slowly walked into the bedroom where my boyfriend was sleeping, turned the corner, and I went in there and I looked under the bed, I looked in the closet, I looked under the desk, I tried to see if the windows were unlocked or anything, and I didn't find anyone. But I fell asleep with him that night because my boyfriend didn't know, and I didn't want to scare him. But, like, no, I didn't want an intruder to come in and kill him in his sleep or something, or me or both of us. So I just kind of didn't really tell him. And a few days later, he's like, can you, come with me around the house? Like, I don't want to walk around the house by myself anymore at night. And I'm like, okay, why? And I didn't want to tell him yet why, even I was a little bit creeped out about the apartment. And he's like, well, I'm like, do you see shadows? And he's like, yeah, I see them around my face sometimes when I'm walking or when I look in the mirror. It's just like a shadowy mass, like a cloud, like a black cloud that would be around his face. And I told him, like, it's okay, I see them too sometimes in this apartment. Don't be scared, don't get upset, don't yell at them, like just try to be polite and just live a normal life and don't get scared, don't get upset. And like just be strong, because any form of little weakness, whatever that was, it would use that weakness. And we didn't win against it in the end. We didn't win against it in the end. Yeah, I ended up in the hospital, and it was pretty bad. And my sister, when she came over one time, as for speaking about other people's experiences, my sister came over to the apartment, and I was getting some tea ready, and some snacks, as you would for like someone who comes over, and it was my sister, I haven't seen her for a while. So she was on the sofa, and she was like, because I did tell my dad about the cross falling off the wall, and I thought it was a little bit weird if he could just but my sister's like, oh, what if it's a demon? Like, that would be so funny or something like that. And she's like this nervous person, like, if she's nervous, she's gonna make a joke. It doesn't matter how bad it is. And so she's just gonna laugh about it. And the cross fell off the wall. And I look around and I'm like, oh, don't worry, it's just the house settling, or it's the person walking upstairs or something. I don't want to scare her. And at that point, we were having a lot of strange things happen in the house that we could see with our eyes. So I put the cross back on the wall, and then she made another joke, and the cross fell off again. And I put it back on the wall, and I'm like, maybe just don't make those jokes again. And I walked back into the kitchen. It was like an open kitchen that you could see right into the living room. And I started finishing making the tea. And my sister, she makes another joke. And I look back at her, and right then, like not even a second after I look back at her, she has this crucifix that that my uncle gave to her. It was like this steel chain crucifix. Um, it was all metal, and it was like my uncle boasted that it was like this really strong metal, and that it would never break. But when I looked back, she had her hands on her lap, and she was looking at me. She made a joke, so of course. But then, like, her necklace broke and landed in the palm of her hands, and she never came back to the apartment again. So yeah, that's a little bit about the apartment.
That so when we talk about demonic stuff on here, which we very rarely do,
Yeah.
a lot of the time I always say that there's like really dark things that people experience, and then there's the what's the word for it? Over commercialization of the word demonic demons. Because there's all these ghost shows and stuff where everything's like, oh, it's demonic. This sounds demonic. That I'm hearing a lot of these things that you're talking about is very weird because there's a lot
Yeah,
of
very strange.
there's mimicry, which is
Yeah.
the thing that appeared as you.
Oh my gosh.
Okay,
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that, but like,
I'm in a
it's
full
like
lighted
oh my gosh
studio,
moment.
and I just
um,
like you made me jump. That
I'm
was
sorry.
why. You're right.
You probably have surround sound. You're just like voices everywhere.
They're freaking me out.
But I lived when I was 12 or 13. I'm gonna kind of make this story really short.
Okay.
I was 12 or 13. I lived in a house on a hill before it kind of dropped off. And there's another hill, and there's a forest. And I remember I had a friend in middle school, and this actually put a little bit of a damper on our relationship, like our friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because she saw me in the forest, and I used to hang out in the forest. Um, so I used to hang out in the forest, and I would walk up there before I would go to my house. But that time, I don't think I even did. I don't think I was even in the forest. Um, but my friends, like, I came to school, and my friends like, hey, Kate, like, I was calling you in the forest. Why didn't you turn around? Like, why didn't you say hi or anything like that? Because for some reason, kids were really scared of the forest. I don't really, for some reason, people were just scared of the forest on the hill. And I'm like, oh, well, if I heard you, I would have turned around or something. She was like, no, you didn't turn around. You just kept walking, like, right up the hill, like there was nobody around you. She was like, you just kept walking, like, the same pace. She was like, why didn't you just turn around and say hi? I think she was actually upset because it scared her. And it wasn't, I mean, now that I think about it as an adult, I think she was just scared and she was upset. And for some reason, she thinks that I was trying to scare her in the forest or something like that. But no, I would never, like, I always paid attention to my friends. I always paid attention to the people around me. They really matter to me. And I remember I was really a little bit upset myself that she would think that I would do something like that. But I never actually thought about it. I'm just like, oh yeah, she just saw somebody else or something. She's like, oh, but it was you. It looks exactly like you. She's like, why didn't you just turn around or something like that? But
So you
yeah,
think that what she saw in the forest wasn't you?
yeah, I do think that because I would have turned around. But it could be someone else, who looks like me or you
Right.
know whatever. Because she didn't see the front of it, so it was probably someone else. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I always told myself. Like, oh, it's someone else you saw. Like, don't get upset at me about it or whatever. But she kept saying it was me. She was like really adamant on it. And I was like, it actually got to the point where I was upset with her that she would think that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
For me, it was just silly.
Yeah, no, I think that whatever you're seeing is very dark based on what you've told us. The crucifix, the mimicry, I mean, that's all very, very dark stuff.
Yeah,
And
I don't.
it's freaking me out talking about it, but I think it's really important that you came on and told your story because there's other people out there that have
Or
experienced this
experience
too.
something. Yeah.
So thanks a lot for coming
Like,
on, and thanks for sharing your story. I think it's really going to mean a lot to a lot of people, and that's what we're all about.
thank you. I really hope that it means something to someone and it helps them on understanding or connecting to something, you know?